His Excellency, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Charles A. Savarin and Mistress Savarin, Honorable Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica and Minister for Finance, Investment, Housing and Land, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Members of Cabinet, the Chairman of the Jaune Riviere Village Council, Mr. Washburn Coffey, other members of the Jaune Riviere Village Council, Ms. Matilda Lawrence, member and elder of the Pentecostal Church, representing the Pastor Achille Coffey this afternoon, villagers of Jaune and Riviere, distinguished guests, members of the media, Dominicans here and abroad, well-wishers, ladies and gentlemen, a very hearty good afternoon to you, one and all. Today we're here to bear witness and to partake in the official signing ceremony for the construction of 24 homes in the communities of Jaune and Riviere. And it's also very significant indeed, since approximately 6 months ago, that was on the 23rd of March, very close by to where we are now in the Ibex Disco, the Prime Minister did make a promise and a pledge that he was going to rebuild the homes in Jaune and Riviere. And today we're here to bear testimony and to witness the official signing ceremony for 24 homes, 12 in the village of Jaune and another 12 in the community of Riviere. I now call to the podium to give us the welcoming address the Chairman of the Village Council, Mr. Washburn Coffey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, His Excellency Charles Savarin and Mrs. Savarin, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, members of Cabinet, Mr. Ivor Stevenson, Parliamentary Representative for the Grand Fort, Riviere Grand Fort, Jaune constituency, members of Cabinet, this is Matilda Lawrence representing Pastor Achille Lawrence. Achille Coffey, sorry. Sorry. Distinguished guests, villagers from Jaune, Riviere, and neighboring villages, the press, and I want to particularly mention DBS because Curtis had taken me up the last time that I didn't mention DBS. So Curtis, that is for you today. All invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinguished pleasure once again to be involved in a ceremony of this magnitude and nature, and in particular for me to be called upon to give the welcome address. I particularly want to welcome all of you here this afternoon in a big way. This is Jaune, just one of the hamlets of the constituency. And though it may seem to be a quiet village, but it is big in stature and nature. There have been many great people who have originated from this area, including our own Archbishop and Cardinal, Father Kelvin Felix. We have had very important persons in engineering and people like Mr. Vernon Martin. We have had people who have excelled in security services, even at the UN, including Captain Robinson. And there are many others who have trailed or blazed the trail before us to make Jaune and Riviere what it is today. And in situations like this, we need to reflect and remember those great pioneers. So while we may be small and I think a common thread in all of the people I've mentioned is the humbleness and the humility of all these people. And this is the kind of community we are, but notwithstanding, we would not like our humbleness and humility to be taken for granted. And this is why it is very important to recognize that we have a ceremony like this, where I can welcome all of you, where we are witnessing the signing of contracts, sticking to the commitment made by the Prime Minister a couple months ago in terms of housing development in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. As the chairman, in my capacity as the chairman of the council, I want to say that we have appreciated the assistance that have been forthcoming to the community. In that regard, we did receive the first tranche, and though the modality was changed in terms of the housing program, but it continues nonetheless. And as we go by, many more people are benefiting. So I think we are moving away from what a friend from Morne referred to me as Morne being the 10th city, to seeing more amenable backups and infrastructure being put in place on behalf of the people. As I welcome you as well, I want to say to the community, as a young council, we are doing whatever we can, notwithstanding, you know, the problems, but we have made achievements in many areas. And only last evening, we had a discussion where we were able to discuss certain issues we have with all what is happening and the programs of assistance to the people of the community. And I have been assured by one of the representatives of the government whom we met last night that she will do all in her efforts to ensure that some of these issues and other areas of assistance are dealt with and are forthcoming to the community. So it is indeed a pleasure once again for me, on behalf of the community, on behalf of all the villagers, and on behalf of the council, to welcome you to this, what I believe is an auspicious ceremony. And what we can see, ladies and gentlemen, happening in the aftermath of Maria is that we are into big things, because it's not usual that we would have had such ceremonies like what we had last time and today, you know. So I want to particularly recognize that. And before I leave, I just want to say it's my pleasure, you know, as the chairman, to be in a position to welcome, you know, Honorable Stevenson, because he has not been fortunate because of his illness to have attended some of the programs and the ceremonies that we have had before. So it's an extreme pleasure to have him in our midst this afternoon, and I want to thank you, Mr. Stevenson, and your wife for being here this afternoon. So once again, in a big way, I want to welcome all of you, and I know your heart will be in place, you know, notwithstanding all the seriousness, you know, you get some of the best callaloo and sauce and stuff like that in Morne. So I'm not sure that is catered for you this afternoon, but if not, you can always come by Cyrique on a Friday evening to enjoy such big happenings in the Morne community. So welcome all, and I hope to see a good ceremony and your full support for all what is happening here this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. His Excellency, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Charles A. Savarin, and his wife, the Honorable Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Minister of Finance, Investment, Housing and Land, the Honorable and Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, members of cabinet, our pal rep, the Honorable Ivor Stevenson and his wife, chairman of the Morne River Cyrique Village Council, Mr. Washburn Coffey, members of the River Cyrique and Morne Village Council, Pastor Achille Coffey, villagers of Morne and River Cyrique, distinguished guests, media, ladies and gentlemen. On this bright and wonderful day, I was given the opportunity to give a testimony. But I don't think Miss Roberts do what she has done, because I was raised to be seen and not to be heard. It kept me back for a while in my personal development. So here I am today. I might just talk a little much. Before I start about this wonderful government of mine, I urge every parent here today of the Morne River Cyrique and the neighboring communities, please, don't do the mistake that my parents did. Give your children a voice. Let them voice their opinion. Help them to speak up. Give them a voice. If you do this, maybe most of them won't solve their problem by violence and be able to talk things out. As most of you guys know, I was out of this country for almost half of my life. And I've seen and read about politics of different countries. And when my back was against the wall, when there was no job and opportunities for me in another country, where I had to walk long lines for help for my children, even though they carried the passport of that country. Sometimes the help was constant, but sometimes had to wait months before I could afford to pay rent or put food on the table, how I would love to. When I asked a social worker for an additional help, she told me to change my situation, which meant I had to have another baby. For some of us who think that living in Dominica is hard and nothing is not happening, let me open your eyes a little. There is not a country in the world where pipes are open in the public for free. There is not a country giving houses for free or selling land for $1 a square feet, for $1 a square foot, and the list goes on. When I came back home in 2014, this was really not my intention to stay. We came on vacation for the summer, but I was wowed to see the development in my country. The help that I was looking for in someone else's country was right here in mine. When I was in high school, I had to leave from one house to another, sometimes in the worst conditions. Once, a lady I lived with even tried to sell me for a fast buck to one of her friends that came from America. The government at this time didn't worry of what shoes you wear or if you had proper clothes to go to school. They didn't worry of how you get there. My grandmother couldn't afford to send me to school, but I knew she would kill me if I escaped, or if I even tried not to go. Because I was the first in her generation to go to a high school. So I took it in my hands and get pregnant instead, knowing that I would be disqualified to continue high school. Now, under the leadership of the Honorable and Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, children have no stress for school, and neither are their parents. You go to school, you take the bus, you come back, you don't have to think of how it's paid, you don't have to think that your child is away from you, or anything like that. So when I get here, I met with the Honorable Ivor Stevenson, and we talked about his government and what they were doing and what their plans were. So I told him I would be back to vote to help to win this election. He thought it was a joke. Since I'd lost my niece from cancer, I thought the best I could do is replace that vote. But unfortunately, a year and a half after, I lost my sister too, to cancer. So I replaced that vote with my oldest son. It has not been easy, but this government have helped me every step of the way. First with my house. And including me on a farming program which aid farmers to plant. When that was over, I was transferred to the NEP. Now I'm still farming. Founded a women's farming group, which the government is aiding. but I hope they will continue to aid us. Because after Maria, we get really flat on our butts. Now I've started an agro-processing company, which I know and have full confidence that I will be supported by this government. So with all that being said, we are here in Morne this day to sign contracts on new buildings in our community, and all that after Maria, at least 95% of us would not be able to afford a proper roof over our heads, or much less build a resistant home for ourselves and our family. I am proud to say that I'll be one of the beneficiaries of these houses, which I know will be state of art. So if anyone asks me, what have the government done? My answer is simple. Just look around. Just look around and remember what it used to be. What it used to be in this country. And sir, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, I'm proud to know that we are having an international airport soon. And from here, I'm applying for a stall in this airport. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency Charles Savarin and his wife, Mistress Savarin, Honorable Prime Minister and other cabinet officials, other invited guests. 1 year after Hurricane Maria devastated our beautiful island, we have a lot to be thankful for wonderful partners and other organizations, but above all, we are grateful to God for all His blessings and for our beautiful island, Dominica. And so we sing, Imela, thank you, Jesus.
to, first of all, recognize in our presence our President, His Excellency Charles Savarin and Mrs. Savarin. And also, I'd like to recognize in a very special way our friend and colleague, Honorable Ivor Stevenson, the Member of Parliament for this constituency, and his wife, Mrs. Stevenson. I also want to recognize my cabinet colleagues who are here present. Also the chairperson or the chairman of the Morne Jaune Riviere Cyrique Village Council, Mr. Coffey, and our dear sister who prayed for us this afternoon from the Pentecostal Church. Our wonderful students who sang so beautifully for us. Tremendous talent here in Morne Jaune and Riviere Cyrique. I want to commend the teacher who is guiding them. I also want to recognize the beneficiaries of these 24 homes, contracts of which will be signed this afternoon. And I would like us to, there are two of my friends here, I think is Matthew, Josephine Matthew, and Edwaniz Prescott, both of whom will be beneficiaries of these homes. They're somewhere around, right? Darling, please come, please. Come let us see you. She will receive a home. You can stand so they could see you. She'll receive a home valued at $112,000. And everything happened at its own time. And I'm sure that every morning you wake and every night you go to bed, you pray that one day you'll get a house from somewhere. You don't know where it's gonna come from, but you had faith in the Lord that one day you'll get a home. And your prayers have been answered. And God's willing, very soon you shall have your brand new home. So I wish you all the best, my darling, and God bless you. Very much. Sure, thank you. Thank you very much, yeah. Now, of course, I want to recognize someone who has been voted the best principal in Dominica for many years. Someone whom, whenever the Ministry of Education has a problem in a school somewhere in Dominica, they send her there. And someone who is largely responsible for this ceremony here this afternoon, because she came to see me and told me, Prime Minister, the people of Morne Jaune and Riviere Cyrique say they want to see you.
That's right, that's right. That's right.
And I said, but I want to come, I have to come. But I do not want to just come and see the problem. I want to come to solve the problem that we have in Morne Jaune and Riviere Cyrique, which is housing the major issue. And recognizing that I'm traveling tomorrow, I said I need to come to Morne Jaune Riviere Cyrique before I leave, so we can get the families here who have been going through a difficult time, you know, where housing is concerned, to give them a sense of practical hope that the day of challenge is coming, the end is coming closer. So I want to recognize my friend Ms. Greta Roberts for her guidance in this regard. And of course, I know she met with the Council of Morne Jaune Riviere Cyrique yesterday, and I'm sure she'll have a long report for me on what else we need to do. And the chairman was whispering in my ears some of the points of discussion which took place. So these are things that we can work together to address. Today we are signing contracts for 24 homes. These homes will be fully concrete homes with concrete roofs, with doors that can withstand heavy winds. The homes will be painted and they will all be tiled with connection to electricity and water. And we're building these homes to ensure that in the event of a storm, you can feel confident in remaining in your home because your home will be safe. Because we know better than everybody what we went through in Morne, Jaune, and Riviere during the hurricane. And I deployed the government system after the hurricane to not to drive through Morne, Jaune, Riviere, but to walk through Morne, Jaune, Riviere for me, and to see where we can get some flat land to build some homes urgently for the residents of Morne, Jaune, Riviere. That we all know, those of us who know Morne, Jaune, Riviere very well, is difficult to come by. Because we wanted to build units, apartment units here in Morne, Jaune, Riviere and also in Grafton. And we've decided to, of course, build the apartment units in Grafton, where we're now constructing 66 units on 2 different sites. And that project is well on its way, with foundations being poured as we speak. So we decided to, recognizing that many of you have your own private lands, and those lands, some of those lands are in safe zones, we decided to build individual homes in Morne, Jaune, Riviere. I have, as Minister for Housing, a list of 43 people between Morne, Jaune, and Riviere who need homes. We started at 24. I am given a public commitment for the government to build the 43 homes that you require in Morne, Jaune, Riviere. And I'm hoping that we can sign the remaining contracts very soon from today. We are also utilizing contractors from Morne, Jaune, and Riviere to build those homes. And we're placing all our confidence and trust in them that they will do a good job to the satisfaction of, most importantly, the beneficiaries. Let us build those homes with pride. Let us build them as per the design and the engineering details. Let us not make any shortcut. Let us ensure that when we put up the blocks that we fill it with concrete so that it can withstand any pressure from any winds. Let us do a job that all of us will be proud of, because these homes must serve as a hurricane shelter for those families. So in the event that we are faced with a storm, they can stand strong in the homes. Now, this is part of a comprehensive national housing program which the government has embarked upon. We are literally building hundreds of homes currently in Dominica. And these things are not cheap. They cost money because we are building them to be resilient. We're building them to be stronger than that which we had before. But we recognize that for many families, like Miss Josephine Matthew here, if the government does not come in to assist, she will never be able to own her own home. And this is why I continue to warn our people, because we say we are a Christian nation, and I continue to warn our people against criticizing a government that is reaching out to people and criticizing the policies and programs of the government to reach out to the poor. Because I always say to people, that when the good Lord returns to earth, He's not going to ask us how many times we've been to church. He's going to ask us how many times we read from the Bible. He's not going to ask us how many times we prayed. He's going to ask us, what have you done for the least of my brothers? So our work here, we are simply civil leaders carrying out biblical responsibilities of helping those who are in need. And this is our commitment, and this is why we have remained unperturbed. We have not been concerned by our commitment to helping people and reaching out to people. So I am very, very happy for you here in Mount Jaune Cyrique. I know in my friends in the East, from Dalis back to Rosalie, you have concerns about the roads, and I have directed the Minister of Public Works to relocate the Public Works Corporation to the East and to keep them there until we can fix the roads for the people in the East to their satisfaction. And I have said to the Minister and the Ministry, do not come back to me and ask me about money. Whatever is required to improve the roads in the East, we must do it, and we must do it to the satisfaction of the residents of the East Coast. And I've even said to Public Works Corporation that if you work diligently and you deliver the improvements within time, I will give you a 5% commission on the contractual sum. 5% on the contractual sum. I want to say to the farmers of this part of Dominica, Riviere, Cyrique, Morne, Jaune, that it's important for us to strengthen ourselves into the group. That every farmer must participate. Because if you're together as a group, it is better for the government system to reach you and to provide you with support. Because it's difficult to be dealing with individual farmers. I know from time to time you may have challenges with markets, and we're prepared to arrange a meeting sometime next week with Dexter and the Park House and the Ministry of Trade, and to come in here to engage you in discussions with farmers to see what you're planting and what is it that the Park House is buying, and also bringing some of the more prominent hucksters across the country to engage you in discussion so that we can have our produce sold to our satisfaction. As you know, we're also building some 122 apartment units in Dalis and Laplin, 122 in the Castle constituency, 66 I believe in Castle and 66 in Saint-Sauveur. Our mandate as a government is to build some 5,000 new homes for people. So I want to say to the rest of the country, listen to me. That you may say, well, okay, well, Skerrit isn't Mount Jaune Riviere Cyrique. You know, what about us? Do not be envious yet. Your turn will come. I give you the assurance that your turn will come to receive homes. Today, the Lord has designated it to be for Mount Jaune Riviere Cyrique, and let us be glad for them. But your time will come. I'm also getting reports from the council and from the community that yes, we had initial challenges with the home repair program, but there's been a remarkable improvement in the government's outreach to residents. You know, we had a huge task. Sometimes people forget what Dominica was like on the morning of September 19th. there are some people who behave and who speak as if we never had Maria, that everything was okay. We were visited just 1 year ago by a storm that we have never, hurricane that we have never experienced in our lifetime. Where to get from one street to the other, you have to go over landslides, fallen trees, galvanized, and other objects that we were cut off from the rest of the country, the rest of the world for several days. Nowhere had lights, nowhere telephone communication, water system down. And the improvements that we have seen so far did not come by the government just sitting on its hands and hoping and praying that somebody will help us. Because I tell you, all of the millions that we have sent to the village councils in cash, and all of the millions of dollars worth of building materials the government procured came from government-owned funds. Funds from the Citizenship by Investment Program. And luckily for us in Dominica, this government has prided itself on managing the affairs of Dominica in a prudent and responsible manner. And you know, our grandparents would always say they're saving for a rainy day. And luckily for us, we had some money saved for a rainy day. And we were able to utilize our monies that we had to provide for the people of Dominica until help started coming from outside of Dominica. The cost of dredging our rivers in Dominica, we've spent in excess of $125 million dredging rivers, taking silt from the rivers, putting them on dump trucks and dumping them elsewhere. If you were to see $125 million floating in rivers, you can imagine how much money that would be? And we have seen the importance of the dredging of the rivers. Because when Isaac came, it came with a lot of rain. And we saw the levels of the Rosa River in particular. The people in Czech Hall, where they have all of these big homes, we spent significant sums of money dredging this river. And had it not been for that investment, the homes would have been affected again. And had it not been for the comprehensive dredging that the government embarked upon in Coptal, in Pishle, you know, you name it, in Kulibistri, in Koliho, all of these villages would have been impacted by the heavy rains. Even the rains of a couple nights ago. And then you hear people say, what is the government doing? Government not doing nothing. We have spent across the country with government-owned funds about $130 million assisting people fix their homes. Fix their homes. Government direct money. So just between dredging our rivers and fixing the homes of our citizens, you're talking about over $250 million. And you may be wondering, why is it Skerrit here is not as gray as or as white as snow? And we spent in clearing roads in Dominica clearing streets in excess of $80 million just to take debris and sand and silt from the road so that you could drive unimpeded. I'm hearing some people saying, well, Skerrit, why you shall leave the roadblock and give me some money instead. And we gave a commitment to our students who were studying, and because we said in the cabinet that every Dominican child who was at school on the night of September 18, 2017, we have to do everything possible to keep the children in school. And we kept all our Dominican students in school to the point where after the hurricane, through supplementary appropriation, which means above and beyond what was budgeted for, we spent $17 million paying for tuition fees for Dominican children. And then you hear people say, what is Skerrit and the government doing for young people? Our parents always told us that, see, Leonel education pierce para point hard. And they made sacrifices to send us to school to learn a trade or to pursue an academic career. And there is nothing better, parents, community, country, that you can give to a young person than a skill, a qualification. And as I said on a radio program some time ago, even if Hurricane Maria had taken away and blown away and destroyed our certificates that most people put on their walls, framed, it didn't take away your qualification. It took our homes, it took our farms, it took our vehicles, but we did not take away that which the government had given us that is intangible. And my friend spoke about transportation. We have not only created access to education, we have also provided parents and the children the means of taking advantage of the access. Transportation, uniform, paying of tuition fees, books, school bags, school shoes. So I'm saying to us, my dear friends in Morne, Jaune, Riviere, Cyrique, that there will always be challenges. We'll always have challenges. We'll always want life to be better. But we must not curse that which we have achieved as a people together. Because it is the Lord that giveth. And therefore, if we are not showing gratitude for what we have achieved, we are in fact going contrary to what the good Lord has taught us. There'll be some, for example, people who find every fault in everything that happens in the country. There'll be people who will say, what we did here tonight, signing contract for 24 homes, there are other things that could be done. We could fix the road if it, they could do something else if it, we could get to the farmers, we could. Because there are some who would like to see the people still under tarpaulin, but do nothing to help them. There are some who would still want to have people in tents, but do nothing to help them, because it would serve their purpose to see people in a tent, in a tarpaulin, and to say, Skerrit do nothing for Dominica, Skerrit do nothing for you and so on. But the good Lord is providing us with the resources. And I want to say to you, don't get me wrong, we do not have plenty money. We are just stretching the little that we have and to seek to help as many people in the process. So I want to thank you for being here in such large numbers in Morne, Jaune, Riviere, Cyrique, which I interpret as a sign of your gratitude and thanks on behalf of those who will benefit. Because I am told, based on the report I have seen, some 88 people will be housed in these 24 homes. So there will be 88 people in between Morne, Jaune, Riviere, Cyrique who will have a much better accommodation which they had before the hurricane and certainly after the hurricane. And I want to say to my other friends, the other friends who, the 19 friends, 19, right? 19 friends, your turn will come soon. Because if we had 43 people on a list and your name is at 25 and 26 and 27, and we take out names from up to 23, it means that 25 now becomes number 1. And 26 number 2. So you move from 25 to number 1. So we're getting closer to you. We're getting closer to you. And as Minister of Finance, I'm committed to providing the Minister for Housing with the resources to effect the construction of your homes. So I want to thank the PS and Mr. Jules and the staff of the Ministry of Housing for moving so quickly. PS, you see how we can move things fast, you know? You know? We can do things fast, you know, because we're able to move very quickly to prepare for today and so forth. And we want to thank our friend, Honorable Stevenson, for being here with us. He came to see me last week, and I told him of this event, and he said he would come, and he's here with his wife, and we're very grateful for him. And, you know, one cannot contest that Ivor Stevenson did a lot in his time as your power rep for this constituency. You know, when you look at the road improvements in this part of the country, we must, you see, we must not forget. Sometimes we forget, you know. The more we get developed, sometimes we forget how life was for us. Every child who is getting a free bus ride to school today, you have to say thanks to Ivor Stevenson. The youths of Grand Fond have to thank him for championing the construction of this expensive playing field in Grand Fond. Over $1 million spent. Over $1 million spent on one playing field. And it's getting late, so I don't want to continue with a whole list of interventions that we have done here for the leadership and guidance of Ivor Stevenson. For me personally, we'll always be grateful to him for his leadership here and for the many sacrifices he has made. Because this job, my dear brothers and sisters, is not an easy one. It is not an easy one, and sometimes people don't appreciate those things. It is not easy, and therefore it's important for us all to work together, do the little that each of us can in our community, and work with the government to make life better for us. There is no way you're going to get life better for you if the government is trying to help you and you're pushing the government away. Or if you're not prepared to engage in a dialogue as to how we can make life better for you. Let us use these opportunities as citizens, notwithstanding our differences, to work together, to help each other address our common challenges as a nation. Because with this 88 people who will have a home very soon, and I'm hoping that the contractors can work 6 days a week If you're an Adventist, you go on church on Saturday, you work on Sunday. If you worship on Sunday, you work on Saturday and you go to church on Sunday. So we can get our friends into their homes as quickly as possible. Because by having these homes built, these 24 homes, and having 88 people to occupy them, will benefit every one of us in these 2 villages. Every one of us. Because you never know. You just never know that a storm may come, God forbid, and it might be in one of these homes we might find a lodgement during a storm. Because uncle's home will have a concrete roof. It will have windows that will withstand the heavy winds. His doors will be of good quality. And you will use his home as a hurricane shelter. And of course, we even put in a porch so Auntie can sit down and have a coffee in the morning and relax in the evening and see people walk by and so on. I mean, the lady who spoke said, there are not many places in the world where people get this kind of things from a government. And therefore, we must embrace these things. And I'll say to you finally, before I leave, that you have to caution yourself. Because first and foremost, your primary responsibility as parents is for the welfare of your children and the welfare of your country. And you have to be careful about people who come and make promises to you. That there is this old saying that if he cannot give you biscuit, you must not allow him to take bread from your mouth. So people will come and say, well, you know, we'll build 500 homes in 500 days. But they will not even know how to build a home using coconut branches. But we here, not only, and the chairman mentioned that I was there some months ago, and I made a promise, and we're here delivering on that promise. Because for me, I do not believe in politicians making promises that they cannot keep and taking people for granted. That's not the way I behave, and that's certainly not the way the party which I have the honor to lead behaves. May God bless all of you. May God bless the beneficiaries. May God bless the contractors and the workers and all of you. I want all of you to be, let me tell you something. I'm appointing everybody in Morne, Jaune, Riviere, Cyrique as a Minister of Housing to supervise those homes for me and make sure that work is done very well. So I want you to walk by every day and watch those homes. To make sure it's done properly and diligently and on time. God bless you. Thank you very much.